Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. This is definitely a video you're not going to want to miss, especially if you are interested in Cardano, are already invested in Cardano, or you're thinking about it, okay? As well as Bitcoin for that matter, because I've been crunching a lot of numbers and I've been doing a lot of stuff to the point where my brain is fried, and I figured I'd better do this video now before I forget everything and how to present it properly. We'll see if I get through it right after the disclaimer.
If it's bull or bear, I don't care. It's quite a rough ride, just like life. But I'm kind of patient, 'cause only time will tell.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be a pretty serious video. This isn't a news video. There's a lot of prediction in this video, a lot of calculation, a lot of information. And I'm doing this because years ago, I did a similar video about Cardano, and it was pretty good. And I'm like, man, I did a video very similar to what I'm about to do now. I did it when a Cardano was at 11 cents. And there are definitely a lot of new Cardano millionaires because of me. I mean, let's be real. And I think this video is going to put some big things into perspective for a lot of the newcomers that maybe aren't necessarily familiar with my work in the past. I like to say I'm always right sometimes. And sometimes I just get into these little weird things where I can't sleep at night. And I have so much going through my head and I can't shut it off. And and then I start making all these mental notes, praying I remember certain things. Now, for some people, a lot of this, maybe what I'm going to show is like not a big deal. You're like, dude, Crow, you're losing your mind over nothing. This is just kind of a culmination of what my train of thought was last night and what I felt it was time to do to kind of help people in the bear market understand kind of where we're at, where I see us going, and what the potential outcome is. And overall, what is it going to take to become a millionaire with Cardano by the peak of the next market? And I'm going to show you a lot of stuff. I'm going to pull up a graphic, but before I do that, I'm going to show you some charts. Now, well, here's the graphic, but that's not what I'm looking at yet. So we're gonna get rid of this. There's a lot there, I know. Don't pause it, don't go back to it, just hang tight because we're gonna get through it. I really want to explain every little line. So let's take a look at the chart first. So this is currently Bitcoin's weekly chart. And in this chart, you're going to see all kinds of vomit, just extensions of my trains of thought and kind of how I look at a lot of these numbers. Now, one common thing, this is one thing that I want to point out, and I'm going to basically show you where I pulled up some of the numbers that you're going to see in the graphic that I just flashed. But approximately from peak to peak are roughly an average of 430 days, or 1,430 days, 1,440 days or thereabouts. Given that statistic alone, from the peak of the most recent bull cycle, approximately 1,435 days takes us to October 20th. The week of October 20th in 2025 is the next potential peak, which would put us potentially at around $115,000 for Bitcoin. All right. And so that in itself is kind of okay. And how do you get that price? Well, I'm getting that price. You can see this price chart here, right? And I've referenced this many times and I talk about it many times, back in April of 2021, where I called the peak of the market on Twitter as I was literally getting on a plane to Puerto Rico and couldn't do anything about it because everything was in boxes getting on the plane. I basically said, this is the peak, the market just peaked. Everyone started flaming. And then I came back that afternoon and I said, but this is going to be a 2-peak market. And the reason I said that is because, well, and obviously it turned out that way. It was exactly a 2-peak market. I called the peak. It was like April, I forget, April 13th or April, something like that. But anyway, I called the first peak. And then we came down, and then we went right back up into the next peak, which was bigger than the first. And then we started our descent into the bear market we are in now. Now, I was looking at the NASDAQ 2003 on, and when I did a bars pattern of the NASDAQ chart and lined it up with Bitcoin, condensing the time frame to match Bitcoin cycles, I basically saw this double peak in that chart. That is what gave me the idea, everything else is lining up pretty evenly. It looks like we are starting to emulate the traditional NASDAQ market in terms of Bitcoin price action. And my justification for that was because we are slowly transforming from a rebellious, get crypto, stuff it to the man kind of crypto price action with extreme volatility all over the place. And then the introduction of like the CME and the futures markets in 2017 that a lot of people were trying to blame as the catalyst for the bear market. Like I tell everybody else, just like people are trying to say that the current drop in price action was due to this FTX black swan. And I always tell people, they may be the media catalyst for ushering in certain price action more immediately, but I feel that it's all inevitable anyway, because I am of the belief that there are certain algorithms that take over the overall price action. And I think that market makers kind of dictate a lot of that and play a big role into perpetuating this algorithmic cycle that we're in. But that's a concept for a whole other video. Now, as we're looking at the price, we can see these ebbs and flows, and we see how the price action on a weekly chart lines up very, very evenly, very nicely for the most part. I mean, the difference between bars and lines is obviously a bit different. And there are some discrepancies because it seems like when we dip really low in the NASDAQ, we are going up quite a bit in Bitcoin. And so unless when we're sideways, the price action matches very well, which is also one of the reasons why I initially was thinking, well, the bottom might be somewhere in February of 2023, because it seems that we peak out at that point in the market on the NASDAQ. And I drew that line there weeks ago, and I left it there, even though I think that maybe that's not quite as accurate, but we'll see how it plays out. And then moving forward, we can see, approximate days from the potential bottom to the next halving, which is going to be in 2024. And then from that halving, the potential peak of that market, which based off of previous peaks, the time between, so forth and so on, in the same time frame would put us somewhere around October of 2025. I have been thinking, we might have an extended bull market cycle because of all of the new regulation, the new institutions. Because if you look at the NASDAQ, that market stops cycling and just continues on. There is no actual peak, which has led me to believe that if we are starting to emulate the NASDAQ in more traditional markets, does this potentially mean that there may very well be a tokenization of traditional markets? And from there on, we get out of the Bitcoin standalone crypto pricing cycles of every 4 years, and the 24-hour new tokenized traditional market, likely with alongside the issuance of CBDCs and their use between now and 2025. If that were to happen, I think it might be a little soon. But there is a potential for that. And so, and given that this will be right after the next presidential election, and how much will change between now and then, could this be where we begin moving into the tokenization of traditional markets and the regular use of CBDCs or government issued stable coins? At which point we may just start to sway away from the traditional Bitcoin market cycles and just continue on in an uptrend due to this new economy. Okay, because 2025 leaves us only 5 years and basically one more cycle until 2030, which is where a lot of this kind of WEF, like this green global agenda, the fourth industrial revolution, all of the plans associated with that are expected to basically become ultimately a culmination of decades of effort planning that is now starting to come to fruition over the last couple of years, like boldly, we'll just say, rather than a little bit more low key. So that being said, one of the other things that I see on a regular basis is that when Bitcoin peaks, the crypto market or the altcoins peak differently at a different time. And the same way as if Bitcoin were to bottom somewhere around 10,600 or thereabouts, that altcoins typically drop an additional 20% post bottom of Bitcoin, at which point we will see that Bitcoin will bottom out, and then Cardano, for example, may very likely drop an additional 20%. All right. And you can follow up on that and look it up on the chart yourself. But if we were to look at it on a smaller time frame, this being a daily chart, you can see we're continuing to move down. And it's likely I still have a short in play it's still not back in profit, but I have been trading on BitGet, and maybe I'll flash that trade because I've been in it for a couple of days now. But we could very well be due for another 35% decline in price, which would take us somewhere around the $10,500 range. And there's potential for us to wick down to even a $9,600 range. And there are a whole lot of metrics associated with that $9,600 to $10,600 price range. Okay. So keep all this in mind, because if we were to continue dropping down and we do end up somewhere around 10.6 as a bottom, that means that Cardano's price, I'll show you in just a minute. You're going to learn today. This is a serious video. This isn't just about crypto news today. I will not be able to sleep until I get all this out. And I'm really, really hoping that this video is a catalyst for the growth of my channel in the future, and to give people a taste of the old crow, a taste of the old stuff that I used to do on a regular basis. And then I got lazy once I thought, I've already helped a lot of people get stupid rich in the last cycle. My job is done. But I'm realizing that there are a lot of you out there that are still continuing to learn. And you know what? All of the Cardano news can be fun and keep you educated on what's coming. But in terms of like real numbers, this is where I come in. So now let's look at the real numbers. I'm nervous. It looks like a bunch of gobbledygook initially, but here we go. All right, so looking up here in the top right, you see Bitcoin's peak to peak is an average of 1,440 days, giving the next Bitcoin peak at approximately $115,000 on October of 2025. This very, very likely. That's only a $40,000, $45,000 to $50,000 increase over the most recent peak. Okay. And I believe that this is very much not only likely, but probably probable, and we may even wick above that, depending on what happens in the traditional markets, the tokenization, CBDCs, all these other elements that are going to come into play, especially the new regulations that I'm sure are going to be coming down the pipe sooner than later. It may very well change the paradigm of Bitcoin's market cycles, and this $115,000 peak will just be the beginning. But I'm basing all my numbers off of this. Now, as we continue moving forward, I'm going to make this a little bigger because I want everybody to be able to see what's happening here. Bitcoin's bottom price, $10,690, which would equal a 35% drop from the current price action of $16,600, a total of 85% in a total drop from Bitcoin's price from the high. Okay. Cardano in the same stretch from 2018 to 2020, the bottom drop was 98%. This is before really any significant use case. This is before, the multitude of the multitude of use cases that have come about in the Cardano blockchain, such as NFTs, DeFi, swapping, all that stuff. Okay. Now we even have more wallets. We have staking with, 75% or 70%. I can't remember the exact number of ADA delegated to staking nodes, such as Crow node, CROW, which we just reached like 5.7 something percent ROI recently on the Crow node. So if you're not delegating your Crow to the Crow node and helping me out, because that Crow node, just so you know, helps pay for the development of Soblox and my game, all of which are being built on Cardano, because I've been using some of that stuff. Well, I've been using all of that to pay my developer. So keep that in mind. I'm not really making anything. It's all going to him. So moving forward here, ADA's bottom price, I think it could hit 14 cents. And I think I've said this before, more or less haphazardly, and I think at least I've said this in private to friends, that I think that Cardano's price could continue down to about 14 cents, which would equal a 55% drop from its current trading price of 32 cents. So don't let this be a shock. Don't let this freak you out, because remember, in the last bull cycle, when I was going heavy, the bottom was 2 cents. We went from 2 cents to $3.14, which was a 15,057% gain. We're not going to get that this time around, because I believe that a lot of the adoption of Cardano that has taken place over the last several years is likely not only going to stay, as we can see the majority of it is now delegated to nodes and it's being held, which means there's a much more limited supply in ADA on the market right now, which is a good thing to a certain extent. But that also means that the price volatility can swing. In a bear market cycle, we might see sell pressure, people selling their Cardano slowly over time. Oh, I need an extra few bucks. I need to pay for this bill or that bill, especially given the economy and how everything's changing. The price of gas, the price of steak, the price of basically everything that the puppeteers in the world don't want us to have. Are the prices of all those things are going up. We're being told, stay away. This isn't good for you. It's not good for the economy. It's not good for the world. We don't really want you to have it, so we're going to make it really expensive, and then we're going to basically say it's all because of supply issues. All right, supply chain issues, which is also being revamped, I'm sure. So that being said, the original price was in 2018, the peak was $1.33. In 2021, the peak price was $3.14. In 2025, should we peak in 2025? I think it's possible we hit $7.22. And some unknown is calling me. I have no idea who it is. And given that, we're going to calculate approximately what it would take right now, and potentially at the bottom, how much it would cost to ultimately become a millionaire at the price of $7.22, if that is what we in fact reach. Now, it could be a little more than that. It could be a little less than that. Maybe we only peak out at $5. I think we're going higher. I especially think we're going higher because the initial leg up, I think, is going to be extremely powerful given the limited supply on exchanges due to the number of people delegating. And the psychology of a market is all of these people that are delegating their ADA right now, they're getting a passive yield of anywhere between like 4 and 6% annually paid out, divided over epochs, approximately every couple weeks, every 8 days or however, I forget how many days an epoch is. So these people are believers. These aren't people that are looking to dump it the second the price goes back up, because they're already making a passive yield. They're much less likely to pull it off of their staking node or wherever they're delegating it to sell it at the first sign of price increase. Okay. Which basically means that until it gets to somewhere between $2 and $3, we're probably not going to see much sell pressure in Cardano in the next bull market, which means that even this $7.22 price could be very low in the grand scheme of things as we continue to move forward. But my guess is the people that got in weren't sure what they were buying. They've learned how to delegate it. I still get a lot of messages from people saying, I still hold my ADA Crow. I'm not sure, how do I delegate to your node? I'm going to have to do a revamped video of how to get Cardano and how to stake it to the Crow node. It's super easy. You use Daedalus, which is what I have always used. You can delegate using, I think, even NAMI wallet. I mean, you can use other wallets to do it. But anyway, that's another topic. So let's take a look and figure out what would it take to become a millionaire with Cardano by the next peak of the market. Currently, if Cardano's price goes down, and it does end up getting to about 14 cents, it would cost you $19,300 at 14 cents to acquire the 138,504 ADA required to become a millionaire at a price point of $7.22 at the peak. Now, that's pretty good. To turn 20 grand into $1 million in a matter of a couple years is pretty good. I will say so myself. That's also not counting the 5% average APY or the return on investment that you're going to get by delegating it to a node. If you were to buy it right now at 32 cents and the price does get up to a peak of 722, it costs you about 45,000 roughly. Okay. So at 32 cents, you're still going to need that 138,504 ADA. Hold it until 2025. We're probably going to get the peak somewhere around there. And if it's somewhere around $7, you're going to be a millionaire. All right. Now, again, this is not financial advice at all. I'm not telling you to run out and buy Cardano. I'm not telling you to run out and do any daggone thing. I'm just telling you that from my experience, which, can be considered limited, I'm just some old guy on the internet. Do not listen to me. Okay. I'm crunching numbers. I'm having fun. I'm sharing my results. That's it. Is the message clear? Okay. I don't want anybody telling me, Crow, you told me to do this. No, I did not. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm sharing my thoughts that keep me up at night. Now, calculate. So let's say you want to figure out, okay, well, Crow, what if the price is this and then it only peaks out here? Or what if it goes here? So if you want to calculate the variables yourself, it's very, very simple. You start with $1 million. Okay. You divide that $1 million by the target peak price. So if you think, well, what if it only goes to $5? Then what? All right. So we calculate $1 million by $5, which gives us the number of ADA tokens we need to purchase to get to that point. And then we multiply that number of tokens by the entry price. So an example, $1 million divided by $5 equals 200,000 ADA. Multiply that by the entry price of 32 cents and you get $64,000. So if the price were to only get to $5, you need 200,000 ADA to make $1 million. That price today at 32 cents would cost you 64 grand. And that's it. That's it. So in the grand scheme of things, overall, 23-minute video, not too bad. We're going to be at 24 by the time all is said and done as a recap. But as far as Bitcoin, I believe the price bottom is going to be somewhere around between 9.6 and 10.6. I think the peak of the market, should we have a hard peak, is likely going to be around October 25 or October of 2025 at a peak price of around 115,000. I think Cardano's price in 2025 could likely hit 722, which is around where I've done a million other calculations years ago in 2017, 2018. Where I thought maybe the price could be somewhere around $8 at the last peak. Obviously, that didn't happen. That was my ignorance. I might just be as ignorant today, and none of this happens. So don't do what I'm telling you. Crunch your own numbers. Do your own research. Because if you, and the one thing that I haven't done, which I really wanted to do, but I thought I'd probably fry my brain for the day and not be able to get anything else done, is to calculate the market capitalization as well as the amount circulating on the market today, and calculate that against the amount of Cardano that was circulating around the times of the last bottom and the last peak. Because by doing that, you can get an estimate or an idea over a time frame as these milestones hit. These are the different variables that change the potential price action at the time. So if there were, 20 billion tokens on the open market at a price of $1.33, how would having a significantly less number of tokens on the open market change the price activity in the current time frame, given that over 75% is basically locked up, or being not locked up, it's free to use, but delegated to staking nodes. I didn't even crunch those numbers, which could drastically change the outcome to the upside, given there's a much more limited supply on the exchanges than there was at the last peak and the peak before that. So every cycle, there's less available supply of ADA on the open market or on the trading markets. And I think that could very well play a role. So while we get diminishing returns on a grand scale, especially with Bitcoin, that may not be the case, and the opposite could be potentially true as Cardano continues to build its use case. Major applications on a global scale continue to rise up and start establishing their own use cases, as well as the milestones hit, increasing throughput and scalability, interoperability, and all these things that I've always been talking about since 2017. So hopefully this video sees you well and does for you what I believe Cardano has done for me and many of you that have followed me over the years. Because if there is anything that I'm hoping I accomplish with my channel, especially as we continue moving forward from now to the next bull market, is my hope is that I educate you. I open your mind to the potential of the ways that you could very well change your life for the better. And hopefully in that, you will use what you've taken from me and help change the rest of those lives around you for the better. Until next time, grow your coins. Visit Soblocks.com, and I'll see you soon.